Hi, I'm Randi Altman with postPerspective. Welcome to our panel called Remote Workflows in the Age of COVID. We're also going to be talking about UHD compliance and new deliverables. So welcome. I'd like to introduce you to our panel. And let's start with Barbary. Ahmed Barbary from Goldcrest Post. Hello, welcome.
Hey, everyone.
We've got Steve Spear from Visual Data, and we've got Matics from Telestream. Welcome, everyone. Before we dig into some questions, I'm going to let you guys talk a little bit about what your company does, and then we'll start. Barbary, why don't you begin?
So yeah, my name is Barbary. I work with Goldcrest Post New York, and basically we are a one-stop boutique for feature films, episodic television, documentaries, and other projects. We do sound finishing and picture finishing. We are in New York in the Meatpacking District, West Village, and we have editorial office, on-set dailies, picture finishing, sound editorial, and ADR.
Steve, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Spear. I'm with Visual Data Media Services in Burbank, California. We've been around for about 25 years. We're an end-to-end service provider. We kind of cover everything from dailies to archive. Kind of our bread and butter is we provide traditional services like editing, QC, and audio. We also do a lot in the digital services space, delivering a lot of content to various platforms, Netflix, iTunes, Amazon, so on and so forth. I will share, because we just found this out last week, that we were the recipients of the 2019 MPV Vendor of the Year Award. This is our third time winning this award, so we're very happy about that. We actually won it last year as well. We won it the very first year, and then last year, and then this year. So we're extremely proud of that that award. So another big part of what we do is we also do a lot of localization work. It's actually about half of the revenue in our company, so it's a very big space that we occupy as well.
Great, Scott.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Scott Matics with Telestream. We're a provider of software and hardware solutions for media transformation, transcoding, monitoring, QC, just about anything that you need to do with media. Telestream probably has a solution, or we integrate to another solution that does all of that.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Okay, so we're all navigating this new sort of crazy world and trying to come up with different ways to get work done. And everybody's sort of had to develop new workflows when things shut down in March. So let's talk about the challenges that this created for everyone. Barbary, do you want to start?
I mean, I can start. Yeah, I mean, basically back in February, we saw it coming, and with our managing director, Dominic Rahm, when we used to sit in a room, he gathered everyone in the room and he's like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we have to be ready. So we were able to build a remote workflow because we wanted to keep everyone safe. And even before the lockdown, we encouraged everyone to stay home because we didn't know what's truly going on. So we were able to build a workflow that allowed our conform artists and grading and our colorists to just stay home. Everyone has the tools that they need, and we build the whole workflow. Either if you are working through an encrypted drives on your as a local storage, if you need to, if you want to work on high-res media, or if you are tapping into the system in Goldcrest in the facility. That gives you the ability to work as you are here, but just from home. So you are just basically working through like another 2 monitors from home, but you are tapping into the same resources, and it allows us to use the same SAN, same shared storage, same resources we have. And I think we started I remember the lockdown was like mid-March, but we were like first week of March, we were already like remote, and we already figured out everyone is safe, everyone is working. As if things have been navigating, we were able to get some clients back in the facility with all of protocols for COVID, like setup and like social distance reviews and grading. So what we do now is like we use 2 rooms having the same signal. The colors is sitting in one room and the client is in another room. And like there is a lot of questionnaire before they walk into the building. We check temperature. We do all of what it needs in order to make that everyone is safe on the client side, on our team as well. And we have been doing a lot of like remote grading as well with clients that either they are not in New York or in another state. We have been using Clearview heavily with like even picture grading and sound as well, like for sound reviews. Like they will finish the mix and then jump on a Clearview session so they can just tweak things. So it gives the client the same experience they used to have as in the room. And also vendors like Netflix, they provide like a guidelines for like what do you use for remote workflow, what do you use for even headphones, for even. So I think everyone like try to put things together in order to navigate through this. I mean, maybe we can jump back to me, but I would like to hear from Steve as well, what they do, especially on the LA side.
Yeah, I think we were fortunate early on. I remember I was watching a basketball game. It was the Dallas Mavericks, and I remember watching Mark Cuban reading the response to the country being shut down, and the NBA was being canceled for the rest of the year, and that was the first time where it really kind of sunk in with us that we were like, okay, this is all kind of real and happening. And the next day we had an executive meeting, and we started talking about what the next steps were going to look like and what we needed to do. At that point, we were planning on everybody like leaving the building and everybody going into a remote working area. We were very fortunate in that Governor Newsom had published on the government website the essential businesses lists, and we came across a section where it said, media services companies can remain open, and we were so happy that the name of our company is Visual Data Media Services, because there is no question anymore about whether or not we can stay open or not. Plus, we do a lot of captioning work, which is an FCC requirement. We on pre-air some pre-air shows, so we're in a very good position to continue to work. Now, with that said, we only kept the essential operators in the building. Everybody else, we got about 90 people working remotely within about 24 hours. We had already put in a lot of measures to allow remote access for our customer service and our sales teams and people like that. So getting everybody else out of the building pretty quickly was relatively simple process. We still had some remote, because we didn't know if they were going to take another step. So we went ahead and we did testing remotely, and PC over IP was kind of the direction that we felt was the best way to go, because it still allowed us to tap into storage locally, but provide a better user experience for our operators working remotely. We also we spun up an instance of Bebop. We had that ready to go if we needed to jump into that tool. That would have satisfied a lot of our needs. But what we really found is that there's things that are kind of beyond our control, which is the end user environment. How do you put an editor in his house if he's sharing the kitchen table with his mom? Or he's got young kids running around while they're trying to do work. It's complicated. The other big challenge was how do you get 5.1 audio into somebody's house? So things like QC and some of the other services that we provide, those were obstacles. So fortunate that we were able to kind of keep everybody in the building. Plus, we have 23 bays in our building, so we were able to get almost all the operators in their own individual bay. And the same thing as Barbary was saying, in terms of COVID best practices and CDC requirements and postings on the door. We put in hand sanitizers throughout the building, paper towel dispensers everywhere. Our cleaning crew, because there wasn't as many people in the building, we just focused all the cleaning crews. Just all they do is just clean the bays 3 times a day. So That's kind of our world. You know, I mean, I will say it has been a crazy time, because during these situations, we've been very fortunate in that we've experienced tremendous growth. You know, when people go on lockdown, everybody needs their Netflix, and you know, so the platforms we've seen a huge spike in platforms and content for platforms. So you know, Disney Plus and Amazon and iTunes and the like. So we've been able to ramp up and grow while working remotely in this kind of weird time. So it's we've learned a lot, and you know, hopefully we'll all be able to kind of get back to somewhat of a normalcy, our new normal, I guess, here in the next few months. But I know, Scott, if you got anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think as a technology provider, we had a couple of priorities. One was just to make sure that we would be able to continue to operate efficiently and serve our customers, you know, customers such as you guys, and be able to respond very quickly to the needs of people, because the media didn't stop, right? I mean, it kept right on going. The other priority was to make sure that the tools that we offered would be suitable for remote operation. And we have a number of technology partners that we work with as well, as part of this ecosystem where you used to be able to just depend on things working off of a local server or something like that. Now you've got this diverse workforce that's remote, trying to view these large media files and continue with their day-to-day operation. And we learned a lot in the first 30 or 60 days or so. And I think that now we've been able to understand the better ways to meet these kind of challenges and that sort of thing. And this is still a learning experience, I think, for many of us. But technologically speaking, we have the tools and solutions that we can bring to bear on all of these kind of challenges that we're looking at. But it's really just a matter of making those tools something that can work efficiently for customers wherever they might be located and whatever challenges they have day to day.
Right. Well, you all touched on challenges, and something as simple as making sure that your people that are working remotely have the bandwidth to actually help them keep working. What were some of the things, maybe some hiccups you found along the way that you had to figure out solutions for, and what were those solutions? And then I want to ask you if you could just follow up too. Were there any products that, and this is more for you, Scott, did you find yourself introducing products earlier than you had anticipated to help meet the needs? So why don't we talk with Barbary first, and then Steve, and then Scott, maybe you could talk a bit about the products.
Sure. I mean, there is, like, if you are dealing, as Steve said, like, if you are dealing with an editor that's sharing the kitchen table and the kids are downstairs or upstairs, like doing remote schooling. So it's just like everyone is using the bandwidth during the day, and setting up an editor could be really hard. And even the bandwidth that they claim they have, it could be not fully available for them during the day, during their 8 hours working day or whatever. So dealing with that is like, we had to like use other tools and make sure, like, okay, it's tweaked to the little things that they have their experience with the boxes. So we were using like Amulet Key, we were using Splashtop. It depends on like the budget of this project, and we had success with Splashtop tweaking things. We had success with Amulet Key to work with like editors like upstate or anywhere. I mean, I say upstate because they don't have like much better connection, and just it's really hard to get like a 300 up and down symmetrical connection. So we had to deal with it. And I think also vendors have been like really active since March, just getting developers and just like getting things out of the door quickly. Like we used to like IPC and NAB, like just having things coming out. But now it's like every week there is something new. Every week there is like people changing things, and like they are coming up with releases, and even beta version is like it's out the door quickly. So yeah, one other thing, we use like Evercast for like supervised editors, like if we have an editor in one location and they need to have the director looking at their edit, we use Evercast and Clearview, which allow us to like allow the editor and the director to be on the same line, seeing the same output, so they can communicate as they are in the same room. So that helped us. And Evercast was like pushing releases like every Monday. And also Clearview, like they didn't have 5.1, but now they have 5.1, 10-bit video signal. So things have been like pushing. I would say if it would take them like 3 years to get things out, we got it in 9 months. So I think maybe we can touch about this later, but if we ask the question, are we going back to the same we used to, even with a vaccine? I don't know. I would leave it to the group.
Yeah. Well, Scott, maybe this is a time for you to jump in. You guys have a product called Glim, which is a remote viewer. I guess simplistic description of it. But I know that you guys hastened that to make it available to people, and I know that Steve is using it. Why don't you talk a little bit about that process, and then Steve, you could jump in and talk about how it's helped.
Yeah, one major challenge for really everybody in the media industry is to be able to view these very large media files remotely. If you're viewing something off your local computer or off a server in the next room, that's one thing, and you can view a UHD file and it looks okay. If you're trying to do that across the internet, it really is almost impossible to do it in such a manner as to be able to accurately review it and maybe even do some QCing. One of our engineers had an idea. We challenged them, look, we need more remote tools. What do you guys think? And we already have media playback technology. One of our engineers came up with this idea of a certain technology to use for allowing the viewing of any high resolution media file in a web browser remotely, and to be able to do that with frame accuracy. And so we were able to take his ideas, develop a product plan around that, and bring a product to release in about 6 weeks. And that's pretty incredible. Something like that pre-COVID would probably have taken about 6 months or 7 months to be able to get to that point. So it was really just many people coming together with a challenge that we could all concentrate on and really get a product like that to market. So and it's been, I believe, beneficial for many people in the industry to help them do something that they really would not have been able to do, and certainly not quite as easily.
Yeah, we use Glim. Glim's a great tool. We like the technology behind Glim. We like companies that are being smart and thinking outside of the box about how to get access to the high bandwidth type of material. For us, one of the things we weren't even really looking to figure out how to get some remote access going with some of our operational departments, but we have a large group in Bangalore of about 60 plus people that are really the team there is really to help with our localization, manage our localization work. We have about 5,000 translators in territory that we use a very, very large network of people that we use to help with our translation work, and being able to kind of tax that team with other help with other services has always been an ambition of ours to be able to do that. But Glim was one of those tools that actually kind of made that available. So we have things like a QA group that's responsible for validating all of the assets to the platform specs before they're delivered. It's kind of like our QC department, but they don't do a full watch through. It's more of a kind of a checklist of things that they look for. With Glim, we're able to now, start to let some of the folks in the Bangalore office do some of that QA work for us as well. The other thing, as I said earlier, we got about 90 people out of the building that were the non-technical people. Well, our customer service group depended very heavily on a workstation they had in the customer service area where they could go in and they could log in and they could preview any file before they assigned it to a work order. And they lost access to that whenever they moved out of the building. Something like Glim it now has allowed them to, working from their homes, they can tap into our production stores safely and securely, and look at any piece of content before they put on a media order. And that's been really, it's been a massive time saver. It helps the customer service people know what they're looking for and what they're doing. If there's an issue with the file and then somebody needs to look at it, they can do it. They don't have to come into the building to look at it. So it's a great tool. It's a great solution for this day and age. And I know there's some and I know you guys are still developing it, and we're looking forward to some of the kind of the new feature sets. We're a big user of Switch as well in our QA department already, but that is more of kind of an on-prem tool. If we can get Glim working as kind of robustly as Switch, then it definitely will be a home run product for sure.
We talked about tools that enable you to work remotely. What are some things that need to be done on-prem?
Oof. Well, for us, everything. I mean, we all do RFPs a lot, right? And you get the RFP and it's the standard question: what's your disaster recovery? What's your business continuity plan? So it's something that we take seriously, and but until you have something like this happen, you don't really know how good your plans are, right? So you have to kind of get into the world to really discover what's needed, what you can and can't do. We like I said, we certainly learned. Our IO department was one technical group that we were able to get out of the office and work remotely. We would have never been looking for that before. The technology's been pretty good for what they're trying to do. But it's, when you have stuff on premises, like your production storage or, your workstations or anything that has a switch, you have a blackout or a brownout or anything happens in the building, somebody needs to come into the building to reboot, restart, to do something. We archive to LTO. How do you do that remotely, right? So there's certainly a storage component. Getting into the cloud is, I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen more of that cloud migration happen as quickly as, and we talked about this kind of the other day when we were talking about the tsunami in Japan, how it wiped out the videotape industry, and how our industry almost overnight moved into this file-based kind of digital world of creation and delivery. We haven't seen it to the same extent, as a result of COVID, but bigger workflows in the cloud. I mean, HD is fine. You can do a lot of work in the cloud, but the UHD, the 4K, the HDR, the big heavy files, it's I don't think we're there yet. One tool that we really like, PixMover, which compresses large files down and lets you work on those files in a compressed state. Again, very smart technology, like Glim, very smart technology, transcodes on the fly, allows. So we need more of this, like being able to get access to big files remotely. And that hasn't really been kind of, figured out yet. And I'm sure Barbary has a lot more to say because he had a lot more remote users than what we had, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a big challenge, as you said, it was like LTO, how you are dealing with, like, even if you have a library, and it has like a set of tapes, at some point you will need to move these tapes out. You need to even ship tapes to clients. I mean, they still, networks still require delivering tapes to them. So how are you gonna? I think this is, if Randy, you are asking the most challenging thing is dealing with tapes in the facility, how you deal with that, because we figure out the rest. Even back in the day, you would say, oh, how we can get a colorist to X300. But I think now, if you ask the same question, every single colorist has an X300 at home. People pushed equipment back home, and we have more here in the facility of X300 when colorists need to work on something here, if they are working with a client in the 2-room setup. So that's the most challenge. I think for cloud, I would say, unless, I don't know, with big files, it's really hard to move to the cloud, because you get the project in the door. How are you gonna migrate things to the cloud quickly while you are working on your SAN? with this media. So it's kind of like really hard. I hope this is like uh, have some improvement. I would expect like this should have like some improvement by now, but it seems like everyone is like afraid of the concept of cloud. And when you ask people, are you on the cloud? They said, yeah, we are on the hybrid solution. It's like, it's still on-prem, but they are maybe using it for disaster recovery on the cloud. I think that's a good use for it. But on active project, I don't know how to do it unless you're really starting everything from scratch on a cloud. Like if we talked about this, like if you start your daily job on the cloud, and then from there you can navigate things around and like into different buckets based on security. So yeah, I think that's the only way I think cloud would be implemented like fully in our workflow. Yeah, other tools that we use Streambox, we use Transcoder heavily in our workflow, and Transcoder has the same concept of like we can tap into Transcoder and have the video signal on a broadcast monitor in home. Via VPN rules, we can do this, and you can work on the transcoder in the facility and just look at heavy files, 4K projects, IMFs from home. So this helped us navigate through the process as well. From Telestream, I'm fascinated by Prism and Vantage. I have been always big fan of Vantage, but to implement it, it's really easy to implement it. It gives you like a lot of flexibility. We haven't fully implemented, but we are getting there. So that's and Prism is like we are using like an older version, but Prism has more features that I mean, I got a demo like a week ago, and it's like it's blown my head around. It's fascinating.
Yeah, we use Vantage a lot. We have I think we have about 10 nodes running on 4 Lightspeed servers, and you know, our approach to kind of automation is that we don't automate to replace, but we automate to augment workflows, because at the end of the day, you still need people doing stuff, you know, at some point along that process. But what Vantage allows us to do is orchestrate, and we have maybe over 1,000, you know, kind of automated workflows onboarded into our ops group, where you know, where an operator has to do some kind of file manipulation or maybe check something, but then drops it into a queue that then automates maybe the next 3 or 4 steps. You know, in some cases it's kind of end to end. We drop it in at the very beginning. We you know, it's very configurable. It's actually it's a tool. It's what, you know, I refer to as the conveyor belt in the building. Really is our Vantage farm. And it gives us tremendous scale, you know. So our business, as you know, is, you know, it's all about the ebbs and flows. And one minute you're overwhelmed, and the next minute you're not sure where the next job's coming from. And the great thing about Vantage is when you're peaking, you know, you can really take advantage of that scale by cranking a lot of product through it. So something, you know, a backbone for us, and something we rely on really heavily.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, you all, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that, you know, talking briefly about the cloud, if we talk about the hybrid workflows, one thing that we've tried to do with Vantage is to make it very easy for customers to slowly migrate to the cloud as they need to, because not everybody really needs or wants to go there directly. And many of these workflows that Steve mentioned, those can actually be executed in the cloud. So you could have, if you have content there, you can execute the workflows there with the content that exists right where it is, or you do it on the ground if that's where you need to do it. So I think really the hybrid approach that Barbary also mentioned, that is really the key, I think, for how you dip your toe into the cloud, and then maybe decide which parts of it are right for you and which parts maybe are not something that you want to invest in at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, we all sort of talked about big files, and with the streaming platforms asking for very specific delivery and 4K and HDR, how has that impacted post-production workflows along the way?
I think for us, I mean, we were able to navigate this by using the remote workflow that you tap into the same system that you used to do. So it didn't change a lot on our end, because like our operators tap into systems here that has connection to the SAN, so they are able to like write big files, rewrap IMFs, and do things technically the same way we used to do it before March. So that was our approach. We are trying to like explore also like having instance in the cloud that you can have like big files there and just like wrap things there and then like just bring everything down. That's how, and also like I think vendors have been changing their specs a lot in the last 6 months. Like some vendors, they like I think rethought, do we need to deliver 12 things? Some vendors said, no, you only need to deliver eight aspects of things and forget about the 4 because they are kind of repetitive. So I think that's what have been impacting and the delivery side.
Okay, well, Steve, that's your wheelhouse. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like so much of what we deliver to the platforms in terms of UHD and HDR is typically newer content, less on the library side of things. Although we did see a big switch in that because, as we all know, for the most part, production shut down, for the past few months. I have noticed here in Burbank a kind of a frenzy of production going on lately. So they film Blackish right around our house, and they're always shooting. So and I've seen the trucks out a lot more. For us, it was more on the restoration side of things where we had to finish in the UHD content. So we kind of saw a little bit of a dip in that work for us as a result in this, even though we could have still handled it because we were still working locally on prem, but we did see a big kind of stoppage of that kind of work. Really, most of the work that we were doing was just kind of straight HD deliveries. But again, on the restoration side of things, again, because production had stopped, the studios needed to dip into their libraries and start pulling that content out to try and help kind of monetize their assets. Disney obviously took a real big hit with all of this, with their theme parks and everything shutting down. So Disney Plus was something that they sunk a lot of money into. They dove into their libraries quite deeply. And we did a number of restoration jobs for them there, UHD, HDR, and big files. So, and all that technology is coming along. We added a couple of 4K bays this last year. We're going to be adding a couple of more 4K. Sorry, we did a 4K in Dolby Atmos room last year. We do 2 more 4K bays next year. But we are seeing that work, steadily increasing. And now with production coming back around, with a vengeance, we're going to see a massive increase in that for sure.
Okay. What about working at the same time with UHD, HD, and SD content? People are watching these shows on many different screens. So how do you make sure that you're delivering all in a easy way?
Well, we could do one of two things. If we're mastering it, we will create different deliverables for the different destination outputs. Otherwise, if you're a Netflix, you're doing the adaptive bitrate play out, right? So you're playing out a very high res file, but then you also have your iterations of that. So if the bandwidth isn't supported, it automatically drops down in bandwidth. And it can get, I think, all the way down to like 8 megabits or something like that, quite small. If you're ever watching Netflix and all of a sudden gets really fuzzy, you now know that everybody else in your neighborhood is also watching Netflix at the same time, and you have no bandwidth. But yeah, we basically make several iterations of the same file, QC them all, make sure that they're all exactly the same, and then deliver them as needed wherever they need to go.
Okay. Scott, do you guys offer tools to sort of help that workflow along?
Yeah, we sure do. It really is more about automation, kind of a template-driven workflow automation, where you get a high-res source that comes in, and then within the same workflow, you could output UHD, HD, SD, different language variants with embedded subtitles and captions and that sort of thing. So we're we're really, just wanting to be able to give our customers the opportunity to design these workflows so that if they want to do everything in one workflow with multiple outputs, they can certainly do that. And there can be QC steps along the way where you can review the content and make sure that that's being processed appropriately before it goes out. But yeah, we've actually had those kind of tools for quite a while, and the more formats that are there, the more active people are using these types of tools now.
Yeah, one tool that we really like that you guys have, the time text split, is a great tool for, again, as we're kind of going through and we're reconforming these libraries, and so we'll use a studio's trying to launch a series in 9 or 10 different languages, but it was originally all the caption or the subtitle files were originally conformed to a master that had extended blacks, right? And now we need to go in and we need to pull the blacks on that, because now it's going to platforms not commercial breaks. So but now you've got these 10 or 12 or 14 different subtitle files that also need to be conformed. And what's great about time text is you can conform the first language to the new version, and then you can apply that setting to all of those other languages, and it automatically conforms for it. It's a huge time saver. That's one that we just started getting into recently because of some huge projects that we're doing. 30,000+ assets that we have to create and deliver in a very short period of time, and conforming each one of those individually is just so time consuming. So that's a great tool. We love that one that you guys just came out with. So
great. Well, we're gonna start wrapping up in a little bit, but I wanted to get back to something that Barbary brought up before, which is going back to the remote workflows and how the industry is going to change as a whole. That I don't think everybody's just going to abandon these workflows that they've discovered and created along the way. How do you see this changing post going forward?
If I can start, I think it's going to be the same. We're going to use the same workflow we have been using. It's just, I think we're going to enhance the ways we are tapping into the facility and using our resources, and just enhance also the experience from people, like to the people working from home. I don't think we will at some point get rid of our SAN infrastructure and be fully on the cloud, at least in the next 2 years. Just being optimistic of the cloud. But for me, I think we're gonna use the same QC, same infrastructure, same way we used to do things, but try to be creative more about how we can get it in a short time and do the same kind of quality we used to do, and we continue. And also, like, during the last 6 months, we have been doing more projects because of the need. So we are trying to enhance our workflows to work with all the workload that we are getting. And the same delivery, we have been delivering the same thing. So I think we are investing more in SAN storage right now because of the need, and because people are shooting 6K, 8K, 12K right now. So with productions coming back, I think we're gonna see more need for same workflow that we used to have and same infrastructure we have, just making it better. And vendors are enhancing a lot of things that's gonna get products out of the door quickly to help us doing that.
Steve, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. We have no plans right now to make it a requirement for anybody to come back into the building. Anybody who's working remotely that wants to continue to work remotely, we're all for it. If people want to move out of state, somebody wants to move to Boise, Idaho, and keep working for us, so that we don't have any issues with that. So
yeah, actually, we start having people actually moved out. We have 2 people they're why you stay in New York? Just
why
go away,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think kind of as Barbary was saying, there's until the industry solves the big data problem, and how do we make it easy to move it and manipulate it and distribute it. Until that happens, I think we're still going to have this dependency working locally. but still at the end of the day, I think this has also been a very eye-opening experience for us. And what can we do? Because we have a lot of dependency on brick and mortar, and we live in LA, and LA is earthquake country. We could have a natural disaster. We could, if we have a fire, there's a lot of things that could still happen that could still jeopardize the business. That's equal to what COVID has put us through. So there's a lot of those are the kind of things that keep us up at night. Is how do we get more dependent on virtual machines working in the cloud and all of that, and less dependent on a building. I don't see that going away, in the immediate future, but I do see that is kind of the thing that everybody I think is looking for is how do we transition out of this space? We do push big data to the cloud, but it's all for archiving or for retention policy practices. Let it go there and die on the vine. We support Wasabi as a cloud engine for media and entertainment because it doesn't have the egress charges and all the transactional charges that something like an AWS or Azure has. And then with tools like Direct Connect, it's same S3 protocol as AWS, so it works really nice with. It just doesn't provide compute storage. It's just long-term storage, but you can tap into AWS. It works through, like I said, through Direct Connect really well. So there is some cost savings there, but I think until everybody gets in the cloud, it's going to be tough, because as a facility, you've got extra charges to push stuff in the cloud, and you got to run kind of redundant, processes in the cloud and on-prem. So there's challenges there, but I think this is it's been a good exercise in that it's forced us to rethink how we do business. And I think anytime an industry gets complacent with how they do things, it's always good to shake things up and causes some innovation and people, smart people to do smart things, and we'd like to see those things happen in our industry for sure.
Scott, would you want to answer that as well?
We're hearing very much the same thing that Steve and Barbary just mentioned from most of our customers, and many of them tell us they don't think we'll ever totally go back to the way we were working before, but there is always going to be somewhat of a dependency on having an on-premises part of things where large media files can come in and be stored securely and that sort of thing. Really, from a technological perspective, we just want to develop solutions that allow people to work the way they need to without making these compromises for, I can do some things here, but I can't do it exactly the way I want to. And it's really going to involve just better remote applications, better technologies, better types of security to be able to do these things, and also flexibility. In our cloud business, we are cloud agnostic. So if you want to run on AWS, you want to run on Google, you want to run on Azure, or Oracle or whatever, we can provide the tools to do that. And in some cases, it's API driven, so that you might be able to just completely automate things that maybe before wouldn't have made sense to automate. But now, if you don't want as many people to touch it, it might make more sense to do that. So I think moving forward, we're just going to find smarter and better ways to meet these challenges. And this has probably accelerated R&D into those kind of things like we've never seen before, actually.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much. I think it was a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time. Barbary, Steve, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining us today. Really appreciate you joining us on our lively panel about remote workflows in the age of COVID. Thank you very much.